Morning, Deputy Mayor online and councillors, CEO, directors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Let's start by acknowledging the traditional custodianships of this wonderful place that we call home. And in our region, it's represented by the Yui people, who are the links to a continuous culture that dates back around 60,000 years. And so when we're together as a council and as a community, it's important that we honour the traditional custodians of our land and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and those emerging. Welcome to our people in the public gallery today. Welcome to our online audience. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded and will be published in accordance with the Council's standing orders. That notice is on the bottom right hand of your screen there. And to all the members who are present, I draw your attention to that notice, and we're required to tell you that you may be subject to legal action if your actions or comments are deemed inappropriate or acceptable. And if you should say anything today, it will also be published and recorded in accordance with the Council's standing orders. So thanks very much. I declare the meeting open. And today, Pastor Hicks is here. Pastor, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Thank you for having me here today. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer this morning to pray over this meeting this morning. We're reminded of Jesus. We thank you for Jesus. Jesus on a cross that allows us to be in an eternal relationship with you. We're reminded of Jesus' words that I came to serve, not to be served. This morning I pray over these council members and our mayor who serve our community. I thank you for what they do. I thank you for their commitment to serve you. And I thank you and pray over today this meeting as they looked forward to what they do with the resources of this city, of your land, Heavenly Father. We pray, Heavenly Father, for a sense of peace in the room, or a sense of unity. Even though there's difficult decisions to be made, difficult conversations to have, that in that place that we'll be reminded of the peace and love of Jesus Christ. And Father, we commit this meeting to you today, that in all things being done, it be done to your glory, to your honour, and to your will. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks very much, Pastor. The absent on council business today. Note that the Deputy Mayor is joining us online. Apologies, condolences. Councillor Sheedy.
Thanks, Your Worship. On Saturday last, I attended a substantial gathering at Walkerston for the late Nola Lloyd. Nola was born on the 4th of June 1940. She was a striking-looking person and a striking personality. In 1957, actually, Nola won the Queensland Sun Girl competition conducted by the Sunday Mail since the early 1950s. She went on to marry David Lloyd, who was a highly respected and diligent locomotive and rolling stock engineer at Marion, whose name was a byword in reliability and precision, which meant a lot for Marion Mill's performance and capability. But Nola went on to have two sons. There was Jeffrey and John, and she, after raising the boys, went on to work at the Marion High School, Morenni High School, I should say, from 1975 until about 2000. But Nola was probably most remembered for being a highly respected marriage celebrant in the region. And she's survived by her two sons and a sister, Marguerite. So I'd like to just condolences.
We'll record the condolences and send it accordingly.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thanks very much, Councillor Sheedy. Any other condolences? No other condolences? Any conflicts of interest to declare today? No? Let's move on to the confirmation of minutes, the meeting of the 29th of October and the 12th of November.
I have a conflict of interest in that Belmunda resolution, Your Worship. I'll just stand aside at that point in time.
So what number is that?
It's item 14.
It's in the notified motion.
Yeah. 14.1.
Well, if you would like to step out, if you so desire. Okay, you can step out there. Thanks very much, Councillor Sheedy. Let's move on to the confirmation of the minutes, 29th of October and the 12th of November. And someone can move that the ordinary meeting minutes of the 29th and that the ordinary meeting minutes of the special meeting minutes of the 12th be adopted. Somebody move. Councillor Baker moves. Councillor Jones seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried. Thank you. There's no business arising out of the minutes. There's no mirror minutes, so let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. The first one up to date, 10.1, the Regional Infrastructure Strategic Advisory Committee, the draft minutes of their meeting of the 29th of September. So there's two here, I think. Are there any questions, first of all?
Oh, just a statement, no question. Just a comment on it.
We can do that during the motion. Okay. There's no questions. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves. Councillor Patton seconds. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a general comment on the report and take it in general as read, just to highlight a couple of points. And it's within the meeting that the terms of reference for the Infrastructure Advisory Committee was amended, and the point that to make about it is that all councillors have been made aware that they can attend as observers across all meetings. There was also a really critical update from TMR Pat April on a lot of road infrastructure across the region and the border region, and in particular Pat raised with the committee around government funding that's pending, government funding opportunities through active transport programs, the cycle network and local government grants. So I encourage council to be prepared as we possibly can to apply for the government funding that's coming up and available. And just a final general comment in relation to all advisories, that where actions or recommendations are being proposed, that council at the appropriate time provide timelines to be applied to those actions and recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Baker. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Thank you. 10.2, the Combined Sustainability and Regional Infrastructure and Strategic Advisory Committees of their draft minutes of the meeting 17th of October. Any questions? Who's going to move this? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Sheedy. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. Look, this is the first time two strategic advisory committees have combined their meetings, showing that we're not only working together, but that the communication is needed, because there's so many areas around council that are not just one area's responsibility. Firstly, we had the opportunity to hear from Steve Boxall on a project called Pits to Port, and it explained the value of the circular economy. Steve's also a part of the Economic Strategic Advisory Committee as well. Secondly, we heard a presentation about the draft waste strategy, and again, while waste sits in the Regional Infrastructure Strategy Advisory Committee space, our interest from the sustainability perspective is where our interests lie. And we do thank Councillor May and all of the staff for attending the meeting. Thirdly, we heard from all of our stakeholders. We have external stakeholders who share their roles and their projects of what's happening in the region. And it's a great way to network and keep things real with the outside world of local government. Thank you, Lord.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. There's two meetings now of the Livability and Social Inclusion Strategic Advisory Committee. The draft minutes of the 27th of October will take two individual motions for these, I think. Any questions around this one? Who's going to move this? Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor May. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll just take these minutes as read, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the recommendation that's coming out of the minutes for the Livability and Social Inclusion Committee. So there's a recommendation there that we evaluate and workshop our communication and marketing strategy and our digital media strategy. And the intent behind this is quite simple for this recommendation. It's to ensure that we are communicating as effectively as possible to our external audience. And now is a great time just to evaluate these strategies and make any adjustments as necessary if possible.
Thanks very much. Councillor Johnson. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. 10.4, once again, the Livability and Social Inclusion Strategic Advisory Committee, the draft minutes of their meeting of the 10th of November. Councillor Johnson, you were the only chair there, so you moved, and Councillor Baker seconds. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first agenda item I just wanted to highlight was the successful funding for the 2026 North Queensland Games that are coming here in May 2026 in Mackay. This funding is critical. This funding is from the Honourable Tim Mander MP, and it is critical to delivering a high quality NQ Games next year. All the partners involved with the 2026 North Queensland Games are very thankful for being successful. The other point I wanted to highlight was our North Queensland Games mascot competition and congratulate Georgia Thorning as the winner of that with her mascot Pedro the Platypus, which is quite a mouthful. At the end of the competition, we had over 60 entries and over 370 votes, so she did really well. So councillors, in this document today, there are 2 recommendations that I'm putting forward. The first recommendation is that council support the development and the receipt of the activation and partnership plan for the North Beaches Community Hub utilisation. So the rationale behind this is just to ensure that council, we are getting the most out of our assets in terms of the community usage and good community outcomes. And the second recommendation is that both the 2023 and the 2025 livability census inform the development of the budget coming up. And so the logic behind this is that if we are placing time and resources into these documents that has a community voice, it should be used to inform important processes like the budget. I do want to note that this will only be one data point of very many, but it is a very important data point.
Thanks very much, Councillor Johnson. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Right, put the motion. The motion is that the draft minutes be received, and further, there's 3 dot points that we'll be actually voting on in this particular agenda item. Council supports the development of the activation and partnership plan, the Northern Beaches Community Hub. The Livability and Social Inclusion SAC received the report on activation and partnership plan, and the council knows for 23-25 Australian livability census. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.5, the Economic Development and Growth Strategic Advisory Committee, the draft minutes of their meeting of the 6th of November. Are there questions? No questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Mackay moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to highlight our minutes, I just want to highlight that the Economic Development and Growth Strategic Advisory Committee, it plays a really important role in shaping the future of our region. And we had really good engagement from our industry and education partners. The discussions were around matters that directly support what our community cares about, which is our jobs, housing, industry growth and opportunities for our young people. We heard about the fantastic outcomes from the Gold Coast Suns they presented, and not just for tourism, but for our community who've really embraced these events. And the committee also discussed the strong outcomes that the Gold Coast Suns partnership brings and how it delivers real economic and community benefits for our region. We also received an exciting update on the advanced biomanufacturing work that's happening with GW3 and QUT, which is creating real pathways for local people to work, learn new skills and build long-term careers without having to leave our region. The committee also raised important points about industrial land supply, housing pressures and how crucial it is that we keep planning ahead as our region grows. And finally, the committee endorsed our updated terms of reference. And by upgrading these terms of reference, we're strengthening the way we do and deal with our industries so that council can keep making informed, future-focused decisions that benefit the whole community. So I just ask that our council receive these minutes.
Thank you very much, Councillor McRae. Speaker against? Any other speakers? For the motion, those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. I'll say congratulations to all the SACs. A lot of work in this last month for all the SACs. I've managed to get to a couple of them. And so congratulations for the work that you're doing. It's really starting to hit the straps of what the strategic advisory committees were designed to do in the first place. So well done, guys. All right. Let's move on. Correspondence and officers' reports. First of all, my monthly review report is tabled at 11.1.1. Any questions? I'm happy to move its adoption. Would somebody like to second that? Councillor Jones. And it speaks for itself, that report. Thanks very much, councillors. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. All right. 11.1.3. Oh no, 11.2. 11.1.2. The CEO's monthly report for October. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I stand?
Yes. This is the first time. Sort of,
Just
yeah.
sort of second time. First time it's actually been a report that's in my review. The key point, there's a whole range of highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have, but I suppose the key point that I'd just like to make is that we are reviewing the structure of this report to try and get more data in it, try and give councillors more specific data points, because there's across the 400 odd services that we provide, there's lots and lots of rich and interesting data which would be useful for council but also for the community, much of which we collect but don't always share. So we're looking at ways for how we can make those reports easier to read but also richer in terms of the data sources that we provide for councillors. Happy to answer any specific
Thanks.
questions.
The question?
No question, just a comment.
I'll take questions first. Did you have a question, Councillor Sheedy?
Comment and question. In regard to, should I stand or?
No, questions are fine.
Happy to see. Yeah, that's good. On page 60, about infrastructure and operations, there's a mention there of 77% of open drains have been serviced in full on time in the past 13 weeks, and that is good. We've seen it. We've down at the airport this morning. We could see some of the evidence of it, but the point that I want to make is that we really have to do better with the drains in that particular part of Mackay. It's a low area, and it's just so critical, and we can see the new developments at the airport.
Councillor Sheedy, you can ask a question. You can ask a question of the CEO. Can we do this better?
Yeah,
this is not the opportunity to make statements around vision. Just ask the CEO.
I guess the point that I'd like to come to is about the need for advocacy. That we need to sort of be active in advocating for more flexibility with our rules that we work under with the Queensland government, and what progress or what initiatives, what actions are we taking in that direction?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Street, for your question. A whole range of things. So firstly, I'd say it's great to see the teams actually getting up to that level, because it is a significant improvement on what we've done over the last couple of years. So we're definitely on an improvement path in terms of our capability. Some of that's been through equipment, that we've bought new equipment, and the team have focused on that. Some of it's been on our scheduling and just making sure that we're ready to go. Part of the solution is also our ongoing recruitment efforts, and it is pleasing to say that particularly in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, we've seen an increase in the number of people applying for jobs and the number of people that we're appointing into the organisation, which is pleasing. So they're all part of the solution, but to answer the specific question, we do need to do some more work with in terms of that advocacy piece with the state government to make sure that ideally we can get exempted out of development conditions that are onerous, so we can do it through that, as well as trying to convince the state for a whole bunch of self-assessment rules so that we can assess ourselves and get in there and do that. It is often interesting that when you have a disaster, there's very good rules around emergent works that you can get in there. What we need to do is convince the state to have some of that flexibility before disasters so that we have less impacts when they do happen. So the team, take that on notice and keep following through with the state.
Are there other questions? Councillor Mackay?
Just a statement.
You don't need to step up.
No, it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Well, you can either do that in response to the motion.
It's just a comment on the report. It's a positive comment on the report.
Okay. Do it in response to the motion.
Okay. So,
We haven't got a motion.
Oh, right. So I stand up there. Oh, man, heavens above, I get confused.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's quite simple.
Well, since
okay,
then.
Do we have any further questions? Somebody like to move the CEO's report, please. Councillor Mackay moves. Councillor Sheedy seconds. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Mayor. There was just a couple of things I wanted to highlight from an economic development perspective. And during October, we had 2 really great visits from delegates into the area. One was through the Gold Coast Suns, and we had the presentation from Damien from Certainty Wealth. And that was just really exciting to see through that sponsorship with Gold Coast Suns, that we now have got 2 housing developments coming through that. So we've got the Riverbend Estate in Moreni and also at Serena for the Southern Beach. So that was really exciting to have them visit in October, and also our Chilean mining sector visited, and that was so great to network with them, and through that they're now excited to come back to the QME Expo next year. So yeah, it's great for Mackay region to have these people visit. So.
Thanks, Councillor Mackay. Speaker against? Any other speakers?
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion. Yeah, mine is just firstly, just given that the CEO has only been here a short time, congratulations on the quality of the report and the context. And in particular, from my perspective, is to see the recruitment of 40 new starters across the business through apprentices and trainees. This demonstrates, certainly to me, the genuine intent of this organisation to grow our own. And I really look forward to those numbers increasing over time. I'd also like to make a note and a point of how encouraging it is to also read the large improvement in roles being filled, coupled with the strong focus on wellbeing for everybody. So it's really encouraging for an elected member to sit at this table that focus and vision is being taken across the business of council that we all oversee.
Thanks very much. Councillor Baker. That's it. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Johnson speaking for.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to touch on a few topics on the CEO's report that I just thought were absolutely outstanding. In the summary, the first one, having the 96% satisfaction rate from our call centre with the community interacting with council, I just think is absolutely incredible. I've had the pleasure of sitting with the call centre over the last month, and the queries and the volume and the range of queries that come through, and the people in that team and how they divert that and manage it is absolutely incredible. So I just wanted to thank the call centre team and also leader Melissa Rogers. The second was the awards received this month. So the MEC facility won a Mackay Isaac Tourism Award for the exceptional service and contribution to the region, and the MEC volunteers received an award from Mackay Isaac Tourism as well for their commitment and spirit of community and service, which again just shows the calibre of people that we have working in the organisation. You can only look further down the agenda to see the annual report and how much we've delivered last financial year. So it's really incredible. And I suppose I just wanted to take a moment to really thank the people in this organisation that choose to show up every day, because without them, we can't deliver for our community. And I hope they realise how important and appreciated they are, and recognise the vital role that they play in bringing the vision that we create at this table to life.
Thanks very much, Councillor Baker. Are there any other speakers? Other speakers? Well done, CEO. Good report. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The Councillors' monthly review reports. Councillors Jones, McRae and Sheedy tabled a monthly review report. Are there any questions about that? Somebody like to move then that those councillor reports be received? Councillor Jones moves. Councillor McRae seconds. Councillor Jones who's the speaker. Okay, I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Let's move on now to organisation capability and risk. And first of all, under 2.1. No, did I miss one again? First of all, Councillor conference attendance report for the Reform of 2050. Right, Councillor Jones, that's a good report. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Jones on this report? Okay, no questions. You'd like to move the reception of the report? Would somebody like to second? Councillor Hassan seconds. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. Look, we have a policy that states that we have to report back, and I have to say, in a room of 100 academia, there were 2 councillors, and I was very privileged to be one of them. You've read the report. The forum provided an excellent opportunity to network and advocate for wrecked fishers, but also to raise on how the Reef Authority could fund several initiatives to support our Sustainability Strategic Advisory Committee and the Reef Guardian Council program with a focus on Mackay. And I certainly put those points forward. So I submit my report for your consideration.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Well done. Hopefully we'll get a chance to follow up on some of those areas, particularly the impact one, the impact that they obviously talked about. So we'll be looking forward to seeing that coming through the SAC. Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, 11.2.1, the legislative delegations. And we've had briefings on this, of course. Fairly lengthy delegation registers for the mayoral delegations, the legislative delegations to council, that's for the CEO, and the waterfront priority development area PDA delegations. Are there questions? No questions? As I said, we've had briefings. Would somebody like to move in delegations? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Baker.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I support the recommendation to adopt the delegations as presented today, understanding under officers' advice that the majority are where they should be, except potentially for a small percentage based on this moving forward. I just request for council to work through a review and then a timeline be applied, and I'm suggesting May, June 2026, however will be advised by the CEO.
Adopted that via our resolutions.
Just get on top.
Okay, Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say that, we have this Act and it requires that we do this annual review of our delegations, and it is really important that we keep the delegations in place right now because they need to be current so our organisation can actually operate and we don't come to a standstill. But all of the registers amount to 27,000 line items, 600 delegations, and we do need to review them, and I am really looking forward to the workshopping planned in 2026 so we can deep dive and see what we do need and what we don't need. There could be some legacy items in there that we just don't use anymore, and so therefore I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Thank you, Worship.
Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The audit policy and charter at 11.2.2. Council moves to adopt this. The audit committee is an advisory body in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Local Government Regulation of 2012, and the officer's recommendation is that council adopts COU number 37, which is the audit policy and charter. We're required to have it. Are there any questions? We've had a briefing on that policy. Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Johnson moves. Councillor Sheedy seconds. Councillor Johnson.
Something
Pretty well straightforward. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now, we've got a number of policies that will follow. The construction and maintenance of roads within the road reserve policy. Once again, we've had a briefing on this one. And the officer's recommendations that we adopt policy number 12, which is construction and maintenance of roads within the road reserve. Are there questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Councillor Hassan. Pretty well straightforward. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Obviously. 11.2.4 driveways and property access. That's crossing of road reserves policy. And once again, this is policy number 24. We've got a briefing on. Are there questions? No questions. Somebody like to move? Councillor Correll moves, seconded by Councillor Patton. Councillor Correll. There's no speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The information privacy policy. This is policy number 46. Once again, we've had a briefing on this policy. Are there questions? No questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Baker. Okay. There's nobody wish to speak to it. Would you wish to speak, Councillor Baker? No, just jumping ahead rather. Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The provision of road infrastructure to education establishments policy. This is policy number 72. And this is the revised policy, of course. Are there questions? No questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption of this policy? Councillor Jones moves. Councillor Patton seconds. Councillor Jones.
As read.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? There you go. The motion is carried. Councillors, we have one policy for rescission, and this is the right to information policy. Once again, we've had a briefing on this. This is policy number 47, and this is presented to us today for rescission, as it is no longer required, as you know. Somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Corrigan. Councillor Baker. As read.
As read.
Okay, put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Let's move on now. 11.2.8, lease renewal for the Midpoint Fishing and Recreational Club. And this is put to us to approve the renewal of the lease fishing and recreational club, a total area of 1,220 square metres, being part of Block 91 on that plan number. It's known as the 140 or 1481 Midpoint Road. Are there questions? No questions. So we'd like to move the adoption. Councillor Jones moves. Councillor Corrigan second. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. It's fairly self-explanatory, but at the end of the day, you know, the Midpoint Fishing Club came to us and said that they would like us to do this audit on their building. And I guess after the 12 months, once we get to that point, we've done the audit, we'll then have further conversations around where to from here after that. That's what it's about. Thank you.
Speaker against? Any other speakers? Put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 11.2.9, the lease renewal for Surf Lifesaving Queensland. And once again, this council can resolve because there's an exemption under section 236 of the Local Government Act that says a local government may dispose of a valuable non-current asset other than by tender or auction if the valuable non-current asset is disposed of to a community organisation. And so that's part of the recommendation, and the second part of the recommendation is to approve a new lease for the Surf Lifesaving Club of Queensland for a total area of 688 square metres, known as 21 Wren Street, Slade Point, for a period of 10 years to commence on the 7th of March 2026. Any questions? No questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Mackay. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. Again, self-explanatory. This is a 10-year lease ahead of us for the Surf Lifesaving Queensland. They use the old Girl Guides Hall on Wren Street, as said, for their meetings and for storage, and they have done upgrades to the facility. So therefore, a 10-year lease is very appropriate.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Community Services 11.3.1, the adoption of the 2024-2025 annual report. There's a couple of minor amendments that have been circulated. Everybody's got those on their electronic version. So are there any questions around this report? No questions around this report? It's a pretty lengthy report, but it's a very good report. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Jones moves. Councillor Sheedy seconds. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. Look, a lot of work goes into these documents. We're legislated to provide. So I do want to thank all the staff that have been involved. The annual report is merely a snapshot of a magnitude of work that goes on behind the scenes with our 1,000+ staff and that are employed by council every year. And we really do want to thank them for that. The strategic outcomes are something that we all need to deliver on for our facilities, like the Northern Beaches Community Hub and, of course, the Jolimont Fishway, the largest fishway in Queensland, to our major events that we have in our region, and to things like better water supply for Bloomsbury in our community. Regarding the financial statement to the 30th of June, as always, depreciation is always a headache for us, Your Worship, but our financial planning you know, is at its best, and we do the best that we can with what we have. Thank you to the Queensland Audit Office for providing us with an independent financial position that Council is complying with the Local Government Act and the Australian accounting standards, giving a true and fair representation of Council's financial position as at the 30th of June 2025.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Any other speakers? Can I just add my congratulations, CEO and staff. It's been another huge year. It's reflected in this report, and also the audited financial statements, as indicated there by Councillor Jones. It's wonderful to get that audit report and included in our annual report. So with that, I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations. 11.4 now, the Planning, Growth and Sustainability section of our agenda. 11.4.1, this is the Facilitating Development of the High Region Policy at Work, and this is for AJ Turpin. It's the dual occupancy at 30 Beaconsfield Road. I'm sorry. Are there any questions? No questions? Pretty well straightforward. The officer's recommendation is that specific incentive is approved under the facilitating development policy that concessions of 100%. It's dependent on it's being completed and commenced use by the 26th of November 27. No additional infrastructure costs incurred by council, and the developer utilising local contractors and suppliers. So that's a pretty good outcome. Would somebody like to move its adoption? Councillor Mackay moves. Councillor Hassan seconds. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really great to see these type of things come before us, and it's a positive small project for our community. And it adds 2 much needed homes in an established neighbourhood, which helps take some pressure off of our housing market, especially for people looking for the smaller, more affordable options. What I like about this application is that it makes good use of the services that are already there, and so there's no extra cost to the council or to ratepayers. It also brings close to $1 million of local investment into our economy and supports our local tradies, suppliers and small businesses. And importantly, it lifts the look of the site and adds value to the area. So overall, this is the type of sensible community-minded development that gives our residents more choice, supports local jobs and helps strengthen our neighbourhoods. So I support the officer's recommendation.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mackay. Any other speakers? No other speakers? Motion. Those in favour? Any against? Thank you. We do have three. Okay. We've moved from 1 to 3. There's no 2 in the agenda. So there's 2 on the screen, right? I didn't get it wrong this time. Yeah. So this is a DA for material change of use to permit for a resort complex and preliminary approval, including a variation request. Now we do have a speaker. Carl Broom is Carl, are you here? Thank you very much, Carl. And the rules of engagement are you have 3 minutes. This is not a two-way engagement. We'll listen to you and then we'll move on with the consideration of the agenda item. Thanks very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship and Councillors, good morning and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. My name is Carl Bruin. I'm General Manager for Urbex, and today with me is Craig Kovacic, who's General Manager of Urbex Realty, who does their sales and marketing. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge and thank council officers for their commitment and engagement throughout this development application process. It's been excellent. Urbex's involvement in the dunes began in the early 2000s. However, it wasn't until about 2020 that we started construction on our first lots. Since then, we've developed and sold over 100 lots, 40 of which has actually been this calendar year, which is quite an amazing result. The purpose of the proposal in front of you today really seeks to do 2 things. One is to reorganise land use areas, improve buffers and formalise zoning, and secondly, to gain the development permit for the resort. The intent of the master plan is twofold. One, tourism. We want to retain the approved hubs, integrate sensitive resort design, strengthens the beachfront ecological connections, and supports cultural and ecological tourism. Secondly is residential. Residential density as planned is unchanged from the original plan. It formalises a lot of the draft lot typologies that we've been using, which enables us to provide greater diversity in housing, not density, stress that. Urbex's proven expertise in delivery underpins the Dunes amended master plan. Proposal balances residential demand, tourism growth and environmental stewardship while formalising historic land use intent and strengthening Mackay's premier mixed-use estate. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Carl, and thanks for being here. Okay, councillors, are there any questions? Director, is there anything further?
Thank you, Worship. No, as per the report, we did also have a briefing with council on this particular proposal. So there's two elements to this development application before council. There's an application for the resort, which is a material change of use, and that element is actually code assessable. And then there's the impact assessable element, which is the variation request. And that does sort of, it keeps the intent for the site and the mix of land uses. It just sort of changes where they are located on the site around, and does sort of clarify what is happening on different parts of the site. So officers have been working with the applicant for some time on this to make sure that we are able to deliver on the intent for this land through this development application, and it is recommended for approval today.
Thanks, Director. I have one question around the development of East Point, which appears at item number 2 in the summary of matters raised and submissions. And the conditions that we imposed, I'd just like you to articulate the fact that the conditions provide protection against flooding and storm tide and coastal erosion, and are recommended to be imposed on the developer for the development approval.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Assessments for flooding, storm tide and erosion have all been undertaken, and this has been something that has been considered for the site since the initial approvals that applied to the site. There is a buried rock wall for the development, which provides immunity in a 1 in 10,000 year event, storm tide event. So that has definitely been a consideration, and I'll just add further that the variation request actually just establishes the planning framework for the balance of the site, and there are subsequent approvals and applications that need to come as part of the rollout of the development. So while there's been that broader assessment done, and obviously the assessment that applies to the resort, there will be further assessments done as development proceeds also.
So this will be an ongoing condition.
Yes, like with any development where there is particular constraints or hazards that apply to the site, that will be something that is a focus and that is addressed, will require studies and apply appropriate conditions as we progress.
Right. Thanks, Director. Further questions? Further questions? Okay, would somebody like to move then the adoption? Councillor Sheedy moves, Councillor Jones seconds. Councillor Sheedy.
Your Worship, look, it's a real step into the future, this project, and there's a lot of detail there and a lot of opportunity for growth. So I'm happy to move. See this as a good opportunity for Mackay.
Thanks very much, Councillor Sheedy. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to say, obviously, living in this town for the years that I have and living close to the harbour, I've had a keen interest in what happens out that area. And all I can say in support of this motion is that we need more accommodation in this town. So let's just get on with it.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? I think let's just get on with it. All right. If there's no other speakers, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Good report. Okay. 11.4.4, which is a DA for material change of use for the development permit for a battery storage facility and major electricity infrastructure. And councillors, we have an alternative motion received. We've got an alternative motion. The officer's recommendation is for approval. There is an alternative motion, although I do have some questions around the alternative motion, but we'll get to that when we get to the alternative motion. So we'll debate the motion before us that the officer's recommendation has put up for approval, and then if that does not get passed, we'll move to the alternative motion. Would somebody like to move the? Oh, sorry. Are there questions first of all? Questions first of all? Oh, we do have some speakers. I'm sorry. We do have some speakers here. So we've got three speakers. So Danny Percival, Lloyd Mumfield, and Carrie Dahlia. Once again, we'll take Danny first of all. Once again, you've got 3 minutes, and it's not a two-way interaction. We'll listen to you, and then we'll move on. So Danny, thank you.
Your Worship and the Council. My name is Danny Percival and I live in Plaistow, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm not a planner, a lawyer, or an energy expert. I'm a mum, a neighbour, and someone who has built a life and a home in the Pioneer Valley. I'm here because I'm genuinely frightened about what this development means for our safety, our health, and our community. We chose Plaistow over a decade ago for its quiet lifestyle, space, and a strong sense of community. Our kids play outside. We know our neighbours. We all look out for each other. Now we're being told that an industrial scale battery system could be built almost on our doorstep, and we're simply expected to accept this risk. We've all seen the consequences when large lithium-ion batteries fail, fires that burn for days, toxic smoke clouds, and major emergency responses. The Boulder Combe incident proved how serious these events can be. Out where we live, many roads have limited access, and some properties, including ours, have only one way in and out. That reality keeps us awake at night. What makes this worse is knowing that Mackay Regional Council planning scheme was never designed for infrastructure like this. It is outdated, and as residents, we feel like we are the ones being asked to carry the risk created by old rules. Other councils have recognised this problem and acted. Rockhampton introduced a temporary local planning instrument so they could properly assess best developments, look at setbacks, fire danger, noise, environmental impacts, and community concerns, and reject proposals that were safe or inappropriate. Mackay has chosen not to take this step, and as a result, we feel unprotected. Everyone here knows councillors faced this situation before. Edify's proposal, directly across the road from this one, ended up in the planning court, and the council lost. This should have been at the moment when a TLPI was put in place. If it had been adopted, the council would now have stronger planning tools needed to confidently vote no without fear of another court battle. Instead, we are at risk because the planning framework wasn't strengthened when it could have been. We understand the officers are advising approval to avoid another court loss, but it feels like the residents are being told our safety, our mental well-being, and our property values are worth less than avoiding litigation. And for me, that is heartbreaking. When comments are made suggesting that a TLPI wasn't worth initiating because there have only been 2 applications, it raises alarm bells. You do have options. You can vote no. You can write to the Minister and request a call-in so this project is assessed under stronger framework. I'm asking you sincerely to put the community safety first. I ask my neighbours who are here today to stand. To the council members, please vote against Trina Solar Plaistow Best application and stand with the people that you were elected to represent. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. President. Lloyd Blomfield. Once again, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Williamson and councillors, for the opportunity to speak about the proposed battery storage at Plaistow. My family has lived at Formosus Road for 30 years. We chose a rural lifestyle, not an industrial electrical hub. Under this proposal, boundary to boundary, we sit 200 metres from the site. The change in amenity for long-term residents would be significant. And where does it stop? We already have a second battery proposal in progress, and in recent years there's also a solar farm proposal. Residents who have cared for the area for decades are now facing repeated industrial scale developments that bring visual impacts, noise and loss of property value. This is not the lifestyle we moved here for, yet we are expected to bear the cost of this progress. An unproven development. According to the information available to us, the proponent has never built, operated or managed a battery system in Australia. Their technology is untested here and its safety and effectiveness remain unproven. Why should this type of high-risk infrastructure be placed in a rural residential zone in Mackay, especially when similar projects have been rejected in other council areas? Lack of genuine engagement. The company claims to have undertaken ongoing engagement, yet residents have received almost none of the detail we need. Genuine noise assessments. What are the proposed mitigations? Site-specific emergency action plans and clear amenity impacts. The most accurate information I've received has come from today's council agenda, not from the developer. If there has been engagement, it has not been meaningful. The 3 big concerns. Noise. We live in an extremely quiet area. The proposal includes around 300 battery modules, each with between 4 and 12 cooling fans. That is 1,200 to 3,600 fans operating day and night. The developer expects us to accept dBA readings that few of us fully understand. But what recourse do residents have when we hear the constant hum of thousands of fans ramping up and down at night? Fire risk. Fire is a very real concern. When the Tesla battery at Murrabul caught fire, it required 150 firefighters and took 4 days to contain. Can Mackay Fire Services realistically manage an incident of this scale? If a fire occurs, our only exit route is to go past the burning batteries and smoke plume. What happens to our roofs? What happens to our tank water? If we don't have tank water out there where we live, we don't have a house. Loss of amenity. I commend the council on the section 28 that includes a detailed landscaping plan. Residents were promised screening 20 years ago when the substation was built, but it never eventuated. We won't accept that again. If this development proceeds, the landscaping plan must be enforced in full with long-term maintenance guaranteed. In summary, residents request the opportunity to review and comment meaningfully on the following before any approval is granted: the emergency response plan, the landscaping plan, and full and independently assessed noise mitigation proposals. Because right now it is clear who benefits from this development: the landowner and the battery company. It is equally clear who pays the price: the long-term residents who have built their lives there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr.
Mayor
Wilson.
Williamson, Council.
Thank you. And Ms. Gay.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Carrie Galia. My family live directly beside the proposed solar battery energy storage system, just 450 metres from our home. I'm here today because your decision will determine our future. We live at the very end of a road where this best proposed in one way in, one way out situation. If there is a fire, construction incident or explosion, we have no alternative escape route, and emergency services have no alternative access. This alone should give you pause for this. Trina Solar is proposing a 2.5 hectare lithium-ion battery system on prime agricultural land in a quiet rural valley at the end of a dead-end road. Yet despite the scale and risk of the project, there has been no direct engagement with families who live closest to it. Our community has lodged 95 submissions, which is an enormous amount for an area in just 3 weeks. The process was made harder by the public notification signage being placed in the wrong locations and the submission email changing during this period. Not one councillor in this room has made contact with us or asked to understand firsthand how this project will affect our lives. The consultation sessions which are held by Trina Solar were poorly advertised, and the language barriers that were made difficult for residents to get clear answers. Community consultation has been inadequate with this from the start. We are deeply worried about safety. Lithium-ion fires in Australia and internationally have burned for days, releasing toxic gases and requiring major firefighting resources. On a hill at the end of a dead-end road, our families would be trapped. No family, including mine, should ever be placed in that position. We are concerned for our livestock, with construction noise, vibration, emergency lighting, smoke from battery failure, all impacting on animal welfare. Many of us depend on our stock for our income and our way of life. The project's own documents are inconsistent and rely heavily upon assumptions, including noise data taken from the rejected Edify proposal, even though this site that we're talking about is elevated and the noise will travel further. That is not good enough for a development of this scale of risk. This is some of our best agricultural land in our region, and once disturbed and compacted, it will never return to its true agricultural potential. We also cannot ignore the way that the proponent has spoken to communities elsewhere. A Trina Solar representative publicly compared concerned residents in New South Wales to prep students who didn't want to go to school. That level of disrespect towards everyday people should concern this council. I am asking you to vote no and to request a ministerial call. That would show the residents that have voted for you that you are standing with your people who elected you and taking safety concerns seriously. Please see us more than numbers on a map. We are families, we are children at the end of the road, we are stock we care for. See the farmland that feeds our region. And if that doesn't convince you, ask yourself, would you like to live next door to this? If the answer to that is no, then please vote no to the Trina Solar Plaistow BESS and request a ministerial call. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Ms. Galley. Okay, so are there questions, councillors? You have a question, Councillor Sheedy?
Well, just procedure, Your Worship.
Well, we'll debate if there's a second for the officer's recommendation. We'll debate that. And if it gets passed, if it is lost, we'll move on to the amended motion, or the alternative motion, sorry.
So a motion to refuse the recommendation.
If we'll debate what's in your agenda first of all, and if that's lost, we will move on to the alternative motion. Right. Is there any other from the director's point of view?
Thank you, Your Worship. It is a comprehensive report that goes through this proposal in great depth. The application applies to two different properties because there is the battery energy storage facility component, and then there's the major electrical infrastructure component, which is actually on the substation site. The report outlines all of the issues and also all of the submissions that were raised and how they've been considered. And you'll see also that the recommendation for approval is subject to a range of very detailed conditions that do look at a number of the issues that have been raised around safety, noise, visual amenity, etc.
Yeah, if we could just make 3 minutes there, just want to make one point, because I appreciate the heartfelt emotion of the residents. The ministerial call-in powers, it is important that we know that after this application was lodged, the 2 state government agencies which are required to participate for a development application like this to move forward have both expressed support. So, and both have expressed recent support. So it may well be that state government politicians may have a different view. The 2 state government-owned organisations, both Powerlink and Ergon, have provided their support for this proposal. The proposal cannot exist without their support. It is important that council understand that the state government, through their operational arm, both Powerlink and Ergon, have submitted their advice conditions and have supported the proposal. So it is important that councils understand that.
Particularly if we get to the alternative motion.
Yes.
We need to understand that. All right. If there's no further questions, would somebody like to move the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hassan moves. Councillor Bella seconds. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Bishop. Done this with great consideration and just very much acknowledging all of the submitters and the people that have spoken here today. Backing the officer's recommendations on the proviso that we have seen another project like this that did come to council. It was voted down by council and then on appeal was granted. So we run the risk of significant cost to ratepayers. We vote this down today. As the CEO has just referred to, the state government is backing these projects. So if the ministers wanted to call this in, the state government wanted to call this in, they don't need our say-so to do that. They could have already done it. They can do it without our approval or our request. And my concern is that if we vote this down, there's nothing for them to call in. If we vote this down today, it's gone, it's dead and buried. Or the submitter can then go to the appeals court. There is no option then for the minister to call it in once it's been denied. So we run the risk then of there being no further action on in any case. The Premier also recently announced an MOU around Stanwell Power Station for a project that is significantly larger than this one. So as the CEO again just stated, the state government is backing these kinds of projects. So I feel like it's better to have something that we do have some control over. The issue again is if we don't approve it, it can be appealed and then we have less control over those conditions. So we have, as the director just said, imposed some very significant conditions, addressing the risks to the public and very much acknowledging again the concerns of the people that live in the area. But the report shows that that land has not been used for agriculture for several years. It's not under grazing or cane at the moment, and it is close to an existing substation. That substation will be upgraded if this project is approved, which is of benefit to those other developments that are going ahead. As we've just heard, there's development going ahead in Perani, which is requiring more power. It is in an area where there is not significant residential density, and acknowledging that there are people that live in that area, we're conditioning that to as much as we possibly can. So it is with some hesitation, but I feel it's in the best interest of the council and the general community. That project, it follows the officer's recommendations.
Thanks, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I stand to speak against the recommendation, and it's based on as much as possible, council, from my perspective, council needs to be consistent with their decision making. We need to listen to the community voice. We need to listen to the publicly elected members, both local, state and federal. There seems to be so many variables with this matter. Issues with the development in the rural zone, issues with performance overcomes, issues around bushfire hazards. And while it is on paper, I do acknowledge on paper it can be in some way fit. It doesn't pass the pub test. It's certainly not with the community, as we've heard this morning. There is so much speculation around these applications. Community unrest, potentially having these developments as their neighbours, is very concerning, and it should be concerning. Council, and not just our council, is between a rock and a hard place. That is absolutely acknowledged with these developments. All while the government, as we've already heard this morning, is actually, or government entities are giving letters of support and approving this. I urge the council to not support the recommendation in front of us, to move to the alternate motion, which reflects consistency of previous applications, along with it is, and I do take the advice and take on board that at any point the government could have called this in. The fact of the matter is they have not. There is conversations going on through phone, through face-to-face, and speculation that needs to stop. Someone has to stand up, put them in the limelight, and ask the Deputy Premier to call this application in and deal with it.
Thanks, Councillor Mackay. Speaker 4, Councillor Ballard.
To start off, I don't want to see this go ahead. I'm absolutely dedicated to the preservation of ag land. So why am I on this side? It's a bit counterintuitive, but this is the only way we can possibly stop it. Despite what everyone says, we can get a warm and fuzzy feeling by voting this down. It will go to the Planning Environment Court and it will get beat at a cost, a great cost to our ratepayers. And I have to consider, and all the other councillors have to consider everyone in this equation to try and get a win for the people in this area. I'll explain how it works. State legislated to bring in, well, they brought in changes to solar and wind farms. They had to be impact assessable. The decision made by the Chief Executive of the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning, they made the decision, and it had to be on the basis of a social impact assessment report and various other changes. We, in our appeal to a court, the social impact will have very little standing and will get beat. If, however, it comes in under this, or had been put in under this, the appeals of the residents would have had a very real impact on the decision. One would ask why the state didn't bother to put these in. Now, let's just talk about, if we vote this down, we feel good, it'll go to the appeals court. The chances of the Deputy Premier then calling it in are about zip. And if he does, I'd be extremely happy. But I'm about getting a win, even if it's a dirty win. If we vote this up, which will be very disappointing to the people there, we have a chance. Because the pressure then goes on to the state member who has made a big noise about this, telling us as a council what we should do. Temporary local planning instrument, this, that, none of which are valid. None. It is his responsibility as a member of the government. Why has he not gone into the office of the Deputy Premier and demanded this be called in? He carries more weight than a council does. This is purely a way of the state government getting out of responsibility, put it on council, and council look like the bad guys. Do we want to be doing this again and again and again, or do we force the state member to actually own up a bit? I understand politics. I've dabbled in it for a long time. This state member is on a 1% margin. A 1% margin. Put enough pressure on him, he'll walk into the Deputy Premier's office and he'll do his best. But if we don't put pressure on him, he's going to walk away scot-free. I do not want ag land, and I hate hearing about it hasn't been used for this, it hasn't been used for that for so many years. Doesn't change the nature of the dirt, and dirt is gold. So this whole argument sounds like I'm against this. Yes, I am, but I'm going to vote for it because it is the only way in my eyes. I've spent hours on this. People might say I haven't spoken to anyone. Yes, I have. I just don't make it public. I've spent hours looking into this, looking into the ramifications and the possibilities of it getting through. Why would we do something that we did a while ago, got no result, cost us 30 grand, but if we'd had a red hot crack, it would have been probably 250. Why would we do the same again? And let the state member who actually has the power to influence this, why would we let him off the hook? All right, I can't guarantee this, but I see this, and the reason I'm voting for this is because I see this as the best possible chance of getting a decent outcome for the dirt, which is gold, and for the people that live there. All right, you might not like the fact that I'm going to vote for this. But as I said, trust me, I believe it is the only way. Thank you.
Next, Councillor Miller. Speaker against. Councillor Sheedy.
Your Worship, look, I hear Councillor Ballard, but for God's sake, last 12 months ago, we had a similar issue. We had a different government. Things have changed, and I happen to know that the member from Morani is very much behind what is being proposed in the alternate motion. I don't know if Councillor Bell has actually read the alternate motion from what he's been saying, and the mover, I'm sorry, but I think we need to hear the alternate motion and give it a chance. It is all about the Queensland Government being called upon to call this project in. That's what it's all about. And the member from Morani is right behind it. So I say, let's vote against this motion.
Speaker for. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Ballard, I think you've got about a minute left.
Quite okay. In reply to Councillor Sheedy, yes, he might be right behind this. He should be leading the charge. Why is he tucked in behind? Has he been into the Minister's office and requested a call in? Has he? Because he has that ability. I have been involved with state members previously on similar things, not development, where they go into the appropriate member's office and do it. He has the power, and yet he's standing behind a group, the council, that does not really have any tangible power. So I would question the honesty and the integrity of statements made with regard to I'm on your side.
Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Mr. Speak to Councillor Hassan. You've probably got a minute left.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just summing up again, like I said, Councillor Baker is absolutely right. We are absolutely stuck between a rock and a hard place. But on this occasion, I absolutely agree with what Councillor Bell has just said. We need to be extremely careful on how we make this decision. If we vote this officer's recommendations down and this goes to the appeals court, there is no opportunity for the state member or the minister or the deputy premier or anyone else to call it in because it's out of their hands, and we have absolutely no control over this going forward. So to me, the lesser of two evils is to support the officer's recommendations and have some control about how the project progresses.
You've just summed up. Okay. Are there any other speakers?
Yeah, I just want to take on board everything that's been said. And the facts absolutely are that whether the state member or the current government have done the right thing or have knocked on our door? The answer to that is they actually haven't. And I do also take on board that as a local government authority, our power doesn't shine. But man, oh man, have we got power when we've got a voice. If we've got the spine to stand up and use that voice, some fights, in my experience, are absolutely worth having. We need to be on the front as firm with this as we possibly can. And it's not about being against, from my perspective, the actual developments. It's about where they're wanting to put them, the impact they're having on a neighbour that's 400 metres away or 450 metres away, and for not one person to have had a conversation with them. We need to really have full consideration of what we're looking at here. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further speakers, I'll give you a chance to sum up. You moved it, Councillor. No. Or did you move it? That's right, okay. I'll give you a chance to sum up again if you want. I think you've said it right, okay.
Thanks.
So, councillors, we rejected the first one that came to this table. And we rejected it on pure grounds of social amenity and what it would do to that community. Councillor Bella and Councillor Hassan are right. This should not have come to our table if the local member had exercised his responsibility and got the Deputy Premier to call it in. And I really object to being thrown under a bus by a local member for us having to do our job. That having been said, I think we've already proved that we've rejected the first one in the same premises. I think we need to stand with the public and reject this one so that we can have that fight in court if necessary, and it will be an expense. But that's what the council has to decide. So I'll put that motion then. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's lost. Now we'll move on to the alternative motion. Now, Councillor Baker, the problem I have with this alternative motion is that if we move to vote this in terms of alternative motion, vote against it, what is there to call in? So why have we got two sections of this alternative motion? If we voted down in the first section, there's nothing left to call in. So I understand the intent of the motion is that the government should be doing their job. We either do that, we either tell them to call it in, or we vote it down, in my view. So, CEO, have you got anything to say? You've said a little bit before.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. That accords with my advice as well, in that particularly we don't actually know what the state government's position is. So, you know, the nightmare scenario is that we refused the application as per the alternative motion, asked the minister to call it in, and it gets called in and they overturn our position and approve the development, which is the opposite of what I'm assuming the council actually wants. We do know that we have conditions for Ergon, which the state government owns, saying we support this. We do know that we have conditions from Powerlink, which the state government owns, that supports this. So I appreciate that individual government members have suggested that they don't support it, but the only official confirmation that we have from the government is an expression of support. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the actual government's position, but that's the only documentation that is actually official that we have that we can rely on. So it does, yeah, it could certainly, you know, there's potentially an outcome where we ask the state to call it in and it ends up overturning our refusal should council be of a mind to refuse the development. It may well be that the better option is just to refuse the development and the state can do whatever they like.
That's my view too. We can leave it now. We've rejected the officer's recommendation to council, and then ask the government to call it in, or we can refuse it and stand our ground in terms of what the initial part of the alternative motion is. But to do the two of them together in this alternative motion is just counterintuitive. And because if we pass the first one, there's nothing left to call in. And I would hate for the government to use that as a lever to say, well, I'm calling in the council's decision to refuse it and calling it in, therefore I'm going to approve it. So that's just not what we wanted to do at all. So, Councillor May.
Yeah, just a question, Mr. Mayor. In regards to if we refuse this application, it goes to the Planning Environment Court, and for just taking the scenario that they approve it, does the minister then have an ability to change that outcome?
I think he does, yes.
Through you, I might get the director just to confirm this time frame around when the minister can use this power. But
yes, thank you, Your Worship. The provisions that apply to calling seem to be almost deliberately a little bit broad and open. From what I can tell, it can be called in post an appeal being commenced. Once the court's made a decision, though, I'm not clear that that can be overturned, but certainly there is the ability to call it in once an appeal's been lodged.
That's provided.
Okay.
Well, when an appeal's lodged, the Planning and Environment Court consider the application afresh, essentially.
So, in my view, the minister would have an ability, if there's a fresh application, would have the ability to call it in.
Definitely was before the court. So definitely, should we make any decision today, they can definitely call it in after our decision. They can definitely call it in while there's a court process underway. If that's assuming that we get to a court process. We don't expect it's the outcome, but if council was of mind to refuse the application, the proponent may accept that decision.
So can I just ask a further question? So given that information, is it relevant to actually have that clause in the actual motion around getting the minister to call it in? Or should we just go down the lines of putting up the refusal motion with the conditions that we have said why it should be refused, and then actually appeal to the minister to look at that after an appeal has been lodged, if an appeal is lodged, because we don't know that. Like we're in the grey area here because we don't know what's going to happen.
That would be my preference, is that we hold this part of the alternative motion of getting the minister to call it in. But we take the first part. If it all goes to water from there, we're done. If there is a fresh appeal, that's when we ask the minister to call it in. So I don't think we can do this together.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, entirely agree that the third option, Councillor May and councillors, which is potentially available as well, is council could not decide the decision and just ask for the call. It is an impact assessable application. It does leave us in the realm of deemed refusal, which would be no different to council refusing it anyway. So we could just go with the second leg and just not actually decide the application, just pass a motion to ask the minister to call it in. In the background, that would leave us in deemed refusal territory, where the applicant could seek to call on the refusal and take that to the Planning and Environment Court themselves, but they would not have had a refusal from us at that stage.
Okay. Councillor Baker.
Yeah, I just want to put on public record that I didn't just do this off my back. I did get professional advice. Yep. So just to be clear in relation to that, and I'll just pick up on the end, that the actual intent here is about exposure to the government, to get them to do what they're saying. So if there can be commentary behind closed doors, and there can be commentary on the phone, there can be commentary in the written word, and I'm urging while people may have a view that this isn't going to work, in my experience, if you don't ask, you do not receive. If you do not write, they do not come back. You have to be prepared to have the fight. At least you've had a go. Thank you.
I agree with all of that.
Which is the second, I'm talking about the call-in. Yes, I've taken on board exactly what you said, Mayor.
Hang on,
This is for the table, but have heard and I'm going to the CEO based on their professional advice in relation to the alternate motion that we just got moved to the call-in part, the second part, because that is going to do it's going to do two things. The first thing, it's going to put the government on notice through our table. Number two, it gives us a bit of backup.
You're actually speaking a bit now, but
sorry. Understanding.
So I think we've got probably an agreement to move on with an alternative motion, and that alternative motion will be for the government to call this in, because where we stand right now, we've refused the officer's recommendation. So there is still a live DA. If we now move as a result of this refusing of the officer's recommendation, that the desire of the council is for the government to call this in, I think that's probably a decent way to go. And through this debate, people know where we stand. Now, this is the best way, in my view. I think the CEO's got the same opinion. This is the best way for us to actually get some traction. Councillor May?
Just a question, and this is about clarity. If I wanted to amend the particular refusal motion, do I need to wait until it's moved and seconded, or can I put forward my? And it's really an addition to. It's not taking anything out. It is an addition to what has already been written there.
Okay, well, we don't have a motion to amend yet, so can we formulate a motion which is the second part? So instead of all the stuff that's before that, get rid of further that. That council. So that will become our alternative motion. Yeah. The council calls on the Deputy Premier in his role as Minister for Planning to utilise ministerial powers to call in the DA and expedite all of the rest of it. Yeah. You happy to move that?
I'm happy to move that.
So, you have a question, Councillor Bella, first of all?
Question is, and I do believe this is not the best option, but I don't believe it's too bad an option. I'm wondering whether in this, like just to call it in or request a call in, like it's just a council asking to call in. As I said when I spoke, the state member has greater powers than we do. So, and he's dived. Is there a way in this motion, if we're requesting a call in, to demand that, or some way ensure that he champions our request for a call in? Second to that, or secondary to that, this would not be a problem if the same change to solar that they did to solar and wind was made to battery storage. The social impact assessment, which is given in that, would give the people of the area a voice that actually has bearing on the decision making, which it does not in this situation. So these are things that we should consider in this motion. Is there a way to include an action in this alternate motion that ensures that this be investigated with a possibility of it coming to a result? Because otherwise we stand the chance of being in exactly the same situation. Who knows, 1 time, 2 times, 20 times, and having people in the area in exactly the same position, having our ag land getting chewed up. Whereas if that sort of thing can be included, I'm asking, can it? it actually may give us a bit of a longer term result.
No, I don't see why it can't be, but there'd have to be an amendment to this particular motion.
That's what I'm saying. Is there a way to do that?
I'm sure we can. See, I'm sure we can.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bell, we could add a section that said, assuming it becomes a motion, and that we write to the local member seeking his support to advocate for this outcome.
I would go as far as say demanding his support.
Yeah, okay. So we might just hold on to that. We'll do that as an amendment. Councillor May, you've got something that you want to amend as well. So let's get a motion on the table first of all. So Councillor Mackay, you move that alternative motion. Is there a second? Councillor Jones seconds. Now, I'm happy now that we've got a motion on the table to take an amendment. First of all, we'll take an amendment from you, Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to add dot point number 11 in the second part in the also that. So if you go down to the bottom there and add number 11, what I'm suggesting is that the proposal impacts on the rural amenity and character of the locality, and the proposal will also impact on the amenity of the rural residents that live in that locality.
Could you read that out again? Sorry, Councillor May.
Sure. So we've got the proposal impacts on the amenity of the rural residents that sorry, you've not got quite that right. Impacts on the rural amenity and character of the locality and will also impact on the amenity of the rural residents that live in that locality.
Proposal impacts rural amenities and character of the locality and will also impact on the rural residents who live in that locality.
Yeah, I just feel that we need to strengthen that part of the refusal, because it is about, you know, as Councillor Bella has said, that social impact. Really, it's up to us to put it in there.
Okay. So the amendment moved by Councillor May is that the proposal impacts, this is in the reasons at dot point 11, that the proposal impact on rural amenities and the character of the locality will also impact on the rural residents who live in that locality. Is there a seconder to that amendment? Councillor Patton seconded. I think you've actually spoken enough to that one. Councillor May, is there anything further?
Yes, yes, thank you. No, nothing further.
What was the amendment? Those in favour? Any against? The amendment's carried.
Sorry.
Did you have a question?
Councillor May was.
Councillor May, did you have a?
No.
She was just voting. Councillor Bella, did you want to?
So those amendments, yes, I'd like to move them. With regard to the council demands that the state member, who is a member of the government, champion our request for a call-in. And further to that, initiate a change in legislation such that battery storages such as this come under the same scrutiny as solar and wind. Under the scrutiny of solar and wind, yeah. With special reference to the social impact assessment report. Scrutiny.
It's hard when everyone's watching this.
That's what you said, Councillor Bella. Initiate a change, just
So on, councillors, come on.
Rather than scrutiny, treatment. No, seriously, under the same treatment.
All right.
And solar and wind.
Solar and wind, special reference to the social
Well,
impact. What is
Solar
it?
wind. Yes.
Rather than treatment, should it be assessment?
Well, treatment involves assessment.
Same regulation.
Same regulation.
Are you happy with regulation, Councillor Bell?
It would be covered under treatment if everyone's more comfortable with that.
Okay. And special reference to the social impact report. Okay, so the amendment that Councillor Bell moves, the council demands that the state member, who is a member of the government, to champion our request for a call-in, and further, that's to,
Initiate.
and further to that, to initiate.
To initiate,
Further to that, to initiate. To initiate. Just
After that.
and further
With-
to that.
With special reference.
Hang on, and further to that, initiate a change in legislation such as battery storages. No, a change in legislation so that battery storages such as this come under the same regulation as solar and wind developments and special reference.
With special reference.
With special reference, that's right. With special reference to the social impact report. Okay, that's not too bad. You happy with that, Councillor Bell?
Yeah.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Jones seconds it. So wait a minute. Is there any further debate on that amendment? Councillor.
Just through the chair, just the word demands.
Yeah, no, I think we've got it. Like, as I said, he has.
Okay, all right. Councillor Bell wants demands, and then we'll vote on that. Councillor Johnson.
I was just going to support Councillor Baker's comment. I think it could be a request, it would be the same outcome.
Calls on the state.
Yeah, I understand. You know, you listen to what Councillor Bella has said in the articulation of the initial debate we had around this, and it's clear that the state member has had a huge role to play in getting this impasse around our table today. I don't mind demand because he was demanding us right from the minister.
Just a comment, that is exactly the case. He interfered in what is local government when he has a very definite power. For us to just ask him, he's been asked time and again already with no result.
We might not take that any further. Okay, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and just a comment, it's 12 months into a 4-year term. It's all about, I do take your point, Councillor Bell's point, I understand. But we're 12 months into a 4-year term where we need to have good working relationships for the best outcome for the whole region.
Well, it'd be nice for
I'm not going to go
I
in the
understand
ditch.
that too, Councillor Baker.
Yeah, well,
okay. So hang on, no further. We've got an amendment. Are you happy with that amendment, Councillor Bell? It has been seconded. Councillor Jones seconds it. Is there anything further you need to say on the amendment?
All I'd like to say is, and it references the word demand. When I started on this, I was going to vote. I voted to approve it because I'm chasing a dirty win. Like, even if it's a dirty win, it's a win. Demand, like, it's about time we took the gloves off. We, for 12 months, have been placed in between, and it's about time, just as we're expected to do our job, we expect others to do their job. So if we're going to fight, let's fight properly, and let's use the words we need to use.
Thanks,
Demand.
You're speaking to that alternative motion amendment now. I'll ask, is there a speaker against the amendment? The amendment? Councillor Sheedy,
Yes, but my point is that I think
speaking against, I'll get you to stand, thanks. You're speaking against the amendment?
look, I think we've got to get this right, and I think that I support Councillor Baker's suggestion that we need appropriate language when we're dealing with our state member.
speaker.
He's certainly got a record of involvement in this kind of matter, and with the solar and wind farms, and he's definitely on our side in getting a better outcome for this particular development application. No question about that. But Councillor Bella's got to be in his bonnet about the member.
Point of order on this, please.
Steady on. Councillor Sheedy, stop the personal attack. Just speak if you're speaking against the amendment, speak against the amendment. And enough with the personality.
Just about, I think, finding the right word. I don't like the word demands.
Thank you. Is there a speaker for the amendment? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Baker, you're speaking against the amendment.
Thank you. Look, it really is just about that word, but based on balance, the overall alternative, that motion is very good. It goes right to the heart of a state government regulation around renewables and solar. So while I personally would prefer a change of word, but I will support the motion.
Oh, right. I thought you were speaking against. Are there any other speakers?
This one closed.
Thank you.
I, for one, am sick of people saying they support you without them stepping up to the mark. To walk around, speak to individuals, speak at little meetings and whatever, and say they support us, but never having actually entered the minister's office and asked for something they could well have done is not support, it is political expedience. This impacts directly the people of this area, the entire area, not just here. So is it too much we demand that someone do their job? And that is the reason I've asked for that.
Thanks for the summation. I'll put the amendment to the alternative motion that Council demands a state member who is a member of the government to champion our request for a call-in, and further that to initiate a change in legislation so that battery storages such as this come under the same regulation as solar and wind developments, with special reference to the social impact report. Moved and second. I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Those against? Did you vote, Councillor Sheedy?
Yeah, look,
no, Councillor Sheedy, if you don't vote, it's a vote against. There's no explanation if you voted against.
I'll vote against it because I don't.
Thank you, Councillor Sheedy. So the motion, the amendment is carried 10-1. Right. Now we're back to a motion. So the amended motion now becomes the motion. And you're happy to move that, Councillor Baker? Councillor Baker, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Corr was seconded. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, from my perspective, there's not much more to say except well done. Democracy at its best around this table today in doing the right thing. I fully support the recommendation and thank you for to the table.
Thank you, Councillor
Bring
Baker.
on the call in.
Is there a speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Crowell, speaking for.
Thank you, Mayor. I just feel like this, where we are, where we've come to at this point, is not just a reflection on the table, it's a reflection of our community and the people that have spoken already. It's time enough for this council to reflect the voices that have spoken today. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crowell. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Yep.
Sorry, Councillor May, I didn't see your hand.
I did want to speak for the motion, Your Worship.
Right. Well,
I really just wanted to say that it's really important that we get this right. It's, we've had one previously where I don't think we had enough meat around our refusal. And that's why I think it's really important to hammer home that social impact and the impact on the residents that have to put up with this development for many, many years. So we're not talking about a thing that's going to be there for 12 months or a couple of years. We're talking about a long-term development that's going to be impacting upon those local residents that we as the council need to be championing for and on behalf of the residents. That some of the mitigations that our officers put forward, I don't believe went far enough to minimise that impact on those residents. So therefore, I'm fully in support of this particular alternate motion, and also for the calling in powers of the minister. I would really actually support our refusal of this development, because I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Councillor May. We've got the gist of that. All right. I think everybody's spoken. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Well done. Right, let's move on. (11.5) Infrastructure and operations. We don't have anything there. 11.6 corporate services. We do have the strategic financial report at 6.1 for October 2025. CEOs, anything further on that? Are there questions on the strategic financial report? No questions. Would somebody like to move that the strategic financial report be received? Councillor Johnson moves, seconded by Councillor Baker. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another informative report from the Finance Department. It shows that we're tracking well monthly across the operational and capital budget. It looks like there was a bit of a dip in our rate arrears, which is great, and it shows that a large percentage of our outstanding arrears is in the current year. So all in all, it's a good report. I'm happy to support.
Thanks very much, Councillor Johnson. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Move on to section 12, receipt of petitions. We have a couple of petitions here. 12.1, Breezes Retirement Village. And as you know, councillors, it's put to a meeting. There's no debate undertaken. We can only make one of three decisions, and the decision that the officers have recommended that the petition be received and considered by council as identified within the confidential item number 17.1 in the review of revenue service charges on this agenda. And further, that the principal petitioner be advised of that determination. Somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Corra. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Petition received from Carlisle Gardens and the Carlisle Gardens Retirement Village, and once again, the recommendation from the officers is that we refer to it in 17.1 in the review confidential section of this agenda. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Johnson moves, seconded by Councillor Patton. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried. Petition from Palmview Village of a similar nature, and once again, the officer's recommendation to be considered at 17.1. Somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Corra. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Right. That's all the petitions. In tenders, at 13.1, tender number 006 for venue management agreement of the Blue Water Lagoon for lifeguarding cafe operations and pool attendant. We've had some briefings around this one. The officer's recommendation that council award contractor number 006, the venue management agreement at the Blue Water Lagoon, lifeguarding operations and pool attendants to Belgravia Health and Leisure Group. Any questions? Would somebody like to move? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Patton. Councillor Hassan.
That one's very straightforward.
Pretty well straightforward. Any speakers? No speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Councillor Jones records her motion against. Councillor May, are you? We can't hear you, Councillor May. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
I did want to speak against it, but I'll just vote against it. That's fine.
Okay, so there's two voting against it. So the motion is carried 1-2. There's no. Oh, there is a notified motion. There we go. So notified motion 14.1, vegetation vandalism, extremely significant case of Harvey Drive at Belmunda. And so the purpose of this notified motion is to repeal the previous council's resolution of the 27th of August and adopt a revised resolution that reflects the site conditions, community feedback, and the corrected information regarding replanting requirements. We've received this. We can note that Councillor Sheedy has left with a conflict of interest here. So we've received this notified motion from Councillor Mackay. Are there questions?
I've got a question, Your Worship.
Councillor May.
Just in the part of the motion there where we're talking about what the consequences are, I'm just wondering, do they align with our policy?
Yes, apparently they do. Councillor Seah.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor May. They do accord with the policy. Essentially, this is cleaning up the previous resolution. We provided some incorrect advice, and this is rectifying that, but it accords with our policy.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor McRae, you move. Is there a seconder? Councillor Johnson.
Happy to second it.
No. Councillor McRae.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm bringing this notified motion forward because we now have the updated and corrected information regarding the vegetation vandalism at Belmunda. The original August resolution was made in good faith, but the report at the time did not fully reflect the actual on-site conditions or the correct replanting requirements under our policy. Through on-site inspections and discussions with the community, we've confirmed that the educational sign is still in place and that the previous requirement for the 100 plants was based on a misunderstanding of what was needed for this site. By revising this resolution, we're showing that Council is willing to listen, verify information and stay consistent with our policy, and will make adjustments when required. This isn't about reversing our position on vegetation vandalism. It's about ensuring that the consequences we apply are proportionate, reasonable and based on accurate information. Our community deserves transparency, clarity and confidence in the way that Council handles these matters. So I put forward this updated resolution for Council's consideration.
Thanks, Councillor McRae. Is there a speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Johnson speaking for.
Mr. Mayor, just to build on Councillor McRae's comments, the actions in this notified motion are both proportionate and reasonable. What is being proposed is simply applies the policy we have already previously adopted. It's important that we stay transparent in vegetation vandalism, and we are also responsive to community concerns and taking corrective action. I'm happy to support this motion today.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers will put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. So there's no public participation and late business has been notified. So we have a series of confidential reports to consider, councillors. I think we should move into a closed session of local government. Somebody like to move. Councillor Baker moves that we be closed to the public, seconded by might be there.
That 10 policemen.
We're not leaving.
As soon as they come.
Why do you look straight at me?
Righto, okay. Are we back?
Yes.
Are we back online?
Yeah.
Somebody confirm that we're back online? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so councillors, in adopting of the confidential report 17.1, the review of refuse service factor charge, would somebody like to move? Councillor Baker moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 17.2, the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development Mackay Region Policy for October 25. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mackay moves, seconded by Councillor Patton. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. 17.3, approved concessions under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program for October 2025. Somebody move. Councillor McRae moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. 17.4, Economic Development and Growth Strategy Advisory Committee Subcommittee draft minutes of the 5th of November meeting. Somebody like to move? Councillor Corrill moves, seconded by Councillor Patton. Those in favour? There you go. The motion is carried unanimously. So thank you, councillors. It's a big meeting. Thank you very much, CEO. Thank you, directors.